Everything I am commanding you, you are to take care and do. Do not add to or subtract from it. If a prophet or someone who gets message while dreaming arises among you and he gives you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder comes about as he predicted when he said, "Let's follow other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them," you are not to listen to what that prophet or dreamer says, for Adonai your God is testing you in order to find out whether you really love Adonai your God with all your heart and being. You are to follow Adonai your God, fear him, obey his mitzvot, learn to what he says, serve him, and cling to him. And that prophet or dreamer is to be put to death, because he urged rebellion against Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from a life of slavery, in order to seduce you away from the path of Adonai your God ordered you to follow. This is how you are to rid your community of this wickedness. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son or your daughter, or your wife whom you love, or your friend who means as much to you as yourself, secretly tries to entice you to go and serve other gods which you have not known, neither you nor your ancestors, gods of the peoples surrounding you, whether near or far away from you, anywhere in the world, you are not to consent. You are not to listen to him. You must not pity him or spare him. You may not conceal him. Rather, you must kill him. Your own hand must be the first one to putting him to death, and afterward the hands of all the people. You are to stone him to death, because he has tried to draw you away from Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of a life of slavery. Then all Israel will hear about it and be afraid, so that he will stop doing such wickedness as this among themselves. If you hear told that in one of your cities, which Adonai your God is giving you to live in, certain scoundrels have sprung up against you and have drawn you away to inhabitants of the cities by saying, "Let's go and serve other gods, which we have not known." And you are to investigate the matter, inquiring and searching diligently. If the rumor is true, if it is confirmed that such detestable things are being done among you, you must put the inhabitants of that city to death with the sword, destroying it completely with the sword, everything in it, including its livestock. Heap all its spoils in an open space. Burn the city with the spoils of the ground for Adonai your God. It will remain a tell forever and not be built again. None of what has been set apart for destruction is to stay in your hands. Then Adonai will turn his fierce anger and show you mercy, have compassion on you, and increase your numbers, as he swore to your ancestors, provided you listen to what Adonai says and obey all his mitzvot that I'm giving you today, thus doing what Adonai your God sees as right. You are the people of Adonai your God. You are not to gash yourself or shave your hair above your foreheads in order to mourn for the dead, because you are a people set apart as holy for Adonai your God. Adonai your God has chosen you to be his own unique treasure out of all the people of the face of the earth. You are not to eat anything disgusting. The animals which you may eat are the ox, sheep, goat, deer, gazelle, roebuck, ibex, antelope, oryx, the mountain sheep, any animal that has separate hoof, that is completely divided and also chews the cud. These animals you may eat. You are not to eat those that only chew the cud or only have a divided hoof. For example, the camel, the hare, and coney are unclean for you because they chew the cud but don't have a separate hoof, while the pig is unclean for you because along with it has a separate hoof. It doesn't chew the cud. You are not to eat meat from these or touch their carcasses. Of all that lives in the water, you may eat these. Anything in the water that has fins, scales, you may eat. Whatever lacks fins and scales, you are not to eat. It is unclean for you. You may eat any bird. These you are not to eat. Eagle, vulture, ospreys, kites, any kind of buzzards, any kind of ravens, ostriches, screech owls, seagulls, any kind of hawk, little owls, great owls, horned owls, pelicans, barn owls, cormorants, storks of any kind, hoopoes, and bats. All winged swarming creatures are unclean for you. They are not to be eaten. All clean flying creatures you may eat. You are not to eat any animal that dies naturally, although you may let a stranger staying with you eat it, or sell it to a foreigner, because you are a holy people for Adonai your God. You are not to boil a young animal in its mother's milk. Every year you must take 1/10 of everything your seed produces in the field, and eat it in the presence of Adonai your God, in the place where he chooses to have his name live. You will eat 1/10 of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your cattle and sheep, so that you will learn to fear Adonai your God always. But if the distance is too great for you, so that you are unable to transport it because the place where Adonai chooses to put his name is too far away from you, then, when Adonai your God prospers you, you are to convert it into money. Take the money with you, go to the place which Adonai your God will choose, and exchange the money for anything you want: cattle, sheep, wine, or intoxicating liquor, or anything you please. You are to eat there in the presence of Adonai your God and enjoy yourselves, you and your household. But don't neglect the Levi staying with you, because he has no share or inheritance like yours. At the end of every 3 years, you are to take all the tenths of your produce from that year and store it in your towns. Then the Levi, because he has no share or inheritance like yours, along with the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow living in your towns, will come, eat, and be satisfied, so that Adonai your God will bless you in everything your hands produce. At the end of every 7 years, you are to have a Shemitah. Here is how the Shemitah is to be done. Every creditor is to give up what he has loaned to his fellow member of the community. He is not to force his neighbor or relative to repay it, because Adonai's time of remission has been proclaimed. You may deem that the foreigner repay his debt, but you are to release your claim on whatever your brother owes you. In spite of this, there will be no one needy among you, because Adonai will certainly bless you in the land which Adonai your God is giving you as an inheritance to possess, if only you listen carefully to what Adonai your God says and take care to obey all the mitzvot I am giving you today. Yes, Adonai your God will bless you. As he has promised you, you will lend money to many nations without having to borrow, and you will rule over many nations without their ruling over you. If someone among you is needy, one of your brothers, and if any of your towns, your land which Adonai your God is giving you, you are not to harden your heart or shut up your hand from giving to your needy brother. No, you must open your hand to him and lend to him enough to meet his need and enable him to obtain what he wants. Guard yourself from allowing your heart to entertain the mean-spirited thought that becomes the 7th year, the year of Shemitah, in at hand. You would be stingy toward your needy brother and not give him anything, for then he may cry out to Adonai against you, and it will be your sin. Rather, you must give to him, and you are not to be grudgingly when you give to him. If you do this, Adonai your God will bless you in all your work, in everything you undertake, for there will always be poor people in the land. That is why I'm giving you this order. You must open your hand to the poor and needy brother in your land. If your kinsman, a Hebrew man or woman, is sold to you, and he has to serve you for 6 years, but in the 7th year you are to set him free. Moreover, when you set him free, don't leave him empty-handed, but supply him generously from your flock, threshing floor, and winepress, from what Adonai your God has blessed you with. You are to give to him. Remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Then Adonai your God redeemed you. This is why I'm giving you this order today. But if he says to you, I do not want to leave you, because he loves you and your household, and because his life with you is a good one, then take an awl and pierce through his ear, right into the door in which to be your slave forever. Do the same with your female slave. Don't resist it, and set him free, since during the 6 years of his service he is to be worth twice as much as a hired employee. Then Adonai your God will bless you in everything you do. All the firstborn males in your herd of cattle in the flock, you are to set aside for Adonai your God. You are not to do any work with the firstborn from your herd, or shear the firstborn sheep. Each year you and your household will eat it in the presence of Adonai your God, in the place which Adonai will choose. But if it has a defect, is lame or blind, or has some other kind of fault, you are not to sacrifice it to Adonai God. Rather, eat it on your own property. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it, like the gazelle or the deer. Just don't eat its blood, but pour it out on the ground like water.